Hot breath.
Motion.
With Kurt
as well.
Metzger.
I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Who else did you interview on here? Are we on your thing now?
We're on right now,
okay.
yeah. I just want to go ahead and get the time because I know.
Yeah. Who else have you interviewed so far?
Ari Spears, Mark Normand.
Norman did it, okay.
Yeah, he did it a couple weeks ago. He was here at the Laughing Skull. So he did it. That was a good one. It was like the week before his Comedy Central special aired.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple comics talking about like how hard it is to be a white male comic now.
Who was?
There was Andrew Schultz mentioned it. Mark Normand mentioned it. Jared Harris, another that mentioned it. Just how they aren't really looking for white male comics anymore.
Well, I mean, who's they? And also, but you know, when I moved to New York, that was the first thing I was told by like Louis Schaefer, who was the booker at the Boston Comedy Club. He's like, they're not really looking for white male comedians. I still don't know who they is. That's like an ongoing thing, but now what it is like, I don't really have a problem with that. I don't need anybody to look for me. Mm-hmm. You know, but there's in entertainment, there's a particular thing of like, we need to actively kind of fuck them up now. And it's entertainment very specifically. Entertainment traditionally was like a black gay thing, you know?
Oh,
like
I didn't know that.
Well, just like from the old days, like that was a place where you could go freely. I don't mean like, you know, like Harry Belafonte had to go in through the back and all that shit, but I just mean like entertainment was performing was like looked down on as like something like that blacks and homos do.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like
I did not know
traditionally.
That. Okay.
Yeah, that's why like when you hear about Shakespeare times, the men always played the parts of women because no woman would be in the theater because that's like sordid and, you know.
Oh, well, I know now.
You never heard of that?
I've never heard that. No.
Whatever. It's just entertainment's a place where it's like, you know, the freaks and liberals go generally. So if I was like dumber than I am, I would imagine that there was like a fucking plot to get white men. It's not that there's not, but it's not like a real. The majority of the country is like white people, so
yeah, that's
it's
true.
not in real terms. Like it's not like a white man can't make it. It's not like that.
Right.
I just don't want people to actively try to fuck me up based on my gender and skin color. You know what I mean? Like that's what would bother me.
You want them to mess you up based on your opinions. Well,
that's the other thing is. I don't understand why there has to be any kind of like punishment for having the wrong opinion. Like I'm pretty. If you got better evidence for your position than mine, I'll go to your position. But you have to have it. You can't just fucking shame me into it, or fucking bully me into it. Like I'm not. Or it's like, well, the group feels this way. I don't respond to that.
I guess
with comedy now though, there is a fucking thing of like, it's so stupid, man. Because if they really were into like diversity, you can find talented people of every. I mean, like, I could tell you flat out, like, non-male, non-white people that are hysterical that you would be great on something that they're not, nothing's happening for them with like, the business. Mm-hmm. The business is looking for, like, demographically correct, I read one guy called it, and it's like, yeah, we want, like, black people now, but it's a very specific kind. Like, it's like a Donald Glover type of backpack on both shoulders.
Gotcha.
Friendly afro or glasses. So it's still the same shit. It's just like same shit, different colors. It's not like actual diversity. They don't want like a black person who's black. Like they want a friendly stereotype that people already are comfortable with, right? Like the fat, black, and sassy chick.
Gotcha.
So like, somebody does that. So it's like bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's not. Norman in particular, I think, is fucked up because they didn't want to do his hour unless Amy Schumer like put her name on it.
Oh, that was like the agreement? Is unless Amy put her name on it?
That's what Mark told me. Like he couldn't get it. So, now that's outrageous. That because Mark is very talented, man. And,
yeah.
Like, Comedy Central, especially, like Mark has the chops and he fucking paid dues and people want to see him, so they're fucked up for that. But they don't look at it from the business point of stand. Like, oh, hold on.
Oh, ringtone.
Yeah, I'll pause on.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's my airplane ticket. I think if you're like liberal in particular, it's like I'll just focus all my bile at one group that it's okay to be to blame everything
Okay.
on, including my own problems. And it's not anybody. This thing's funny, man. If you talk about that, like they want to get white males, like it's not like black people or something. It's almost exclusively like young white women or dudes that are kind of white women, you know?
Is being so opinionated something you've always been, or is that something you kind of acquired from being around like Patrice O'Neill a lot and stuff?
I mean, opinionated sounds like you've got like, I'm not set. I don't have like like an ideology, you know? I mean, like I would be a flip-flopper in a heartbeat if, like I said, if you got some evidence that means I'm wrong about whatever I think, I'm down to hear it.
Yeah.
Because I'm so anti, like from being in that religion, we're being Jehovah's Witness. I'm so anti-groupthink that I see the pattern over and over again everywhere I go. So, the shit you hear now is a specific, like all that like privilege shit and all that. That's a very specific kind of ideology that you have to believe 4 things to even get to those points that they believe, you know? They're like, well, you're in a position of privilege. Well, you could be broke and you're in a position of privilege. Like, you're like, well, okay, well, explain that. You have to have already accepted like 20 premises that they accept, the people that say that.
It's like Scientology, it sounds like here.
Yeah, it's just like that. I mean, it's like Jehovah's Witnesses. For you, you're like, well, Jehovah's Witnesses have some like nice things about them. Like they're not political and they don't believe in like hellfire. But to get to the nice part, you got to swallow a bunch of other shit, you know?
But you were ordained at like 17.
Yeah, well, every Jehovah's Witness that gets baptized and official is technically a minister. I believe the reason they do that is so that you can get a deferment if you get drafted. Because
okay.
You can't go to war. You can't be a Christian and go to war. So that's I think that's the idea behind it. And then also the people knocking on your doors, that's what that means, ordained. So I had a little card. I guess like technically I could have performed a wedding somewhere if I had to. But it's not like I don't know, people are always surprised like you were a minister. Like it's not that hard to be ordained. It's a made up thing. It's like being a dungeon master. Like it's not it's like I don't understand why it's like I said I completed med school.
So you completely turned off from religion now? After all
100%, yeah.
Yeah, do you even believe in God? What is that stance?
I don't know. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have any like hard position on it. I guess like agnostic, I guess would be my thing. But from what I read now, that you're like an atheist if you don't. Like agnostic's like not kind of the accepted term according to nitpickers, I guess. Because like atheist just means you don't have a God that you worship. So I don't know. I don't know what there is. I just don't know. That's where I leave it at.
All right, we're about to go in. We'll
You're gonna pause it?
Yeah, we'll pause it just to So are you like late to everything? Is that how it goes?
I'm late a lot to things, yes. But I have a lot of shit going on that it's usually when I got like 3 things going on, and I'm not an organized person, so.
I guess that would help growing up doing so many urban rooms, is you understand time on that scale.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I don't know. My therapist had some kind of defiance. I don't really know why I didn't like that, but my mother was like that, and I inherited it. Yeah, I don't know. I got in this business to be a jerk off. I'm not like a professional, so you know.
You got into this business to be a jerk off?
Yeah, I didn't want to have a job.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like more work. I don't know. I always thought I was lazy, but it's not that. I just want to do something I'm interested in. So it ends up being more work. Trying to avoid the work you didn't want to do, right? But anyway, the white guy thing is, I have no problem with it because I hope that the stereotype is like white males that are named Kurt Metzger are not funny because that's to your advantage. That's what I liked about the black rooms. Like it'd be like, what's this gonna be?
Right.
Like it's like starting out as a female comic, basically. So that's good because the bar's so low, you're like flying when you jump over the very low expectations. Like I got zero problem with that.
I'll do a lot of urban rooms too, and the expectations are so low. You get a break just for showing up, really.
Sometimes people won't like you on. I've been everywhere, so people will fucking in some spots are like hostile. But the good thing if you start out with doing like all black people rooms is they will show up to an open mic, a crowd, not a bunch of comics, a crowd of people will show up. So that's something that's like kind of just like nice in general about black people. They'll go to like. They, like the beginner talent thing, like they like to see that, like the Apollo amateur night,
Right,
so
yeah.
To think of like if they boo you or something, that's not, when you're new, you're like afraid of that, but there's something about that I have like a lot of affection for, like that, it's like fair to me.
Mm-hmm.
So
even if they pull a gun out on you.
I remember my first night, somebody pulled a gun out and put it on their table in front of the host. He was like, "You better be funny, motherfucker." And then it was T. Ray Gordon, and Philly was the host, and he was like, "Gun!" And then cops came in like 2 minutes and got this guy out of there.
Oh yeah.
I don't think the guy intended to shoot someone. I think he was just being like an idiot.
Yeah.
But that's terrifying. Philly's like that. Philly's like people that's stupid. They don't think ahead.
What's your best boo story? Getting booed on stage.
Ooh, the one that pops out in my head. I don't know, man. I've had I remember like the first 8 years of comedy, I'd have like a meltdown once a year somewhere. Like a Kramer meltdown, but with like obscure races you never heard of. It's like I didn't even know who Guyanese people were until when I started comedy. It was at the comic strip, and it was packed on a late show, and I did a joke that was like the first joke I ever wrote. And, it was like it just sucked, and I used to have this thing when I wouldn't be doing well, like I would try to see how bad it could get almost.
Oh yeah, lean into it.
Yeah, which is not. It was kind of a perversion of a thing that you should do. It was stupid of me, but I don't know. It was good to learn, I guess. But I would be like, "Oh, you don't like that? Well, I'll be as fucking big a piece of shit as I can." Mm-hmm. This is the first joke I ever wrote, and I said it, and I go like, when I was younger, there's this guy on my block named Uncle Charlie that used to molest me every day, and he said, "If you tell anyone what I did to you, I'm gonna kill your parents." And then I told everybody. He never killed my parents. Like, I thought we had a deal, dude. That was my first ever joke I wrote. I know, it doesn't sound like, it sounds like somebody with problems wrote that. So
No doubt. Which you are.
That didn't win the crowd.
Right.
That's like it was like my parachute in a bad situation is like Bugs Bunny, like just forks and knives come out of the chute. That's what that was. And people were booing me so hard that one Asian guy stood up and did like an Apollo, like with his fingers, like,
whoa.
You fucked up when a Chinese guy is doing that. So, but I might have had a worse bomb than that, but that one in particular just sticks out in my mind because of how bad it fucked me up for like 2 months. I was like gun shy. And that was when I was already doing comedy for like three years or 4 years. Wow. So it's not, when you're a beginner, you expect it. I was still a beginner 3 or 4 years, but it probably hit harder to me because I was a little bit further into comedy. Mm-hmm. And it was like I remember it stuck with me, like just the pain of that. But were
you like, I better go back to art school?
No, it was like this fucking just sad, like, I don't know, man. It's like losing a fight or something feeling like.
Yeah.
But, I was being a pussy. So that's just good for you. It's like you should have as many of those as you can so that when you have that situation, it doesn't like. Or last night, for example, the late show. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad crowd. Like people were like, "Oh, I love that, thank you." Like people were very nice out, but you were on, man. They had dead fucking energy, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" And then you get in that thing where it's almost like an economy. Like anytime a crowd has a fair economy, like okay, laugh for joke, that's fair enough. Mm-hmm. But then they think like, no, I'll have to have 2 extra jokes for more laugh. And it's like an unfair, and that's draining.
But you stay in there. That's what I've noticed in watching this weekend is like, regardless of the reaction, like a lot of comics would be like, what's wrong? But you just stay in there. You just stay swinging. Like you don't kind of lean back and like try to toy around. You just go.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. That's the difference. Let's say when I started and like now, cause I'm like 18 or 19 years into it.
Yeah.
So how good you are is like how good you are when that happens. Right?
Okay.
That's how good you are comedy. It's not when you're killing and the crowd's nice or whatever. It's like when they suck, like what do you do? And that's how you judge how good you are, Uh-huh. So I remember, Daryl Hammond I used to watch at the Cellar all the time. And he's a really cool guy, that guy. And I remember like Marin, I think I was like Marin, we were in the stairwell watching him and the crowd sucked. I remember Marin's like, nobody walks through the shit like Daryl Hammond. And he was fucking right. Like Daryl Hammond he wasn't killing, but he was saying shit that's funny, but it was just his, he was just like gliding over the fucking shit river. Like it was like that's like a pro,
No doubt.
So I wanted to be like a pro. So it's just that it's because you're like kind of a vampire and you're feeding on their energy. And so the first thing is like to learn it in comedy is like, what do you do when they're giving you nothing and you have to bring your own energy to be able to like get them to give you some and then get your engine going. Mm-hmm. And then like the last night crowd's one of those ones where it's just like a slow, like somebody punctured a hole in your gas tank. It's just slowly leaking fuel. So you've got to keep like gathering your fucking chi or I don't know what the fuck, but you got to like keep like barreling through like that. And I think that's like the hard part to learn. But the way you do it is like I have like love for the audience. So when I started, the way I would get through was just think of them as animals that are not off stage. Off stage, I'm very grateful you came to the show, blah, blah, blah. But on stage, it's like well, you're a bunch of fucking stupid animals that had to pay someone to make you laugh because you're so unfunny and stupid you can't do it yourself. And I'd have to think that way to feel confident enough to do my set. But then what happens if you get somebody sucks in the crowd? And it's not when you say I'm bombing, I'd never lose my temper, but it would always be I was doing well, and then one person decides to fuck with me, and it's like unfair, and then that would make me angry. Or if heckling, I don't have any problem with. You want to heckle me? You know, I'm like Crazy Joe Dravola from Seinfeld. Like I like to leave the door open to encourage intruders. Mm-hmm. Like I can make a show out of you. That's no problem. But a dismissal, like someone talking like I'm not there, or like waving their hand, like go on, like that used to fucking. That was my little like snap.
Had the Kramer breakdowns on those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like that's the thing like that I now don't have. That like because I have like love for them. So the way I always had looked at it is like on stage I'm like I'm the fucking Kim Jong-un dictator of this,
right.
And you ain't shit. It's not a democracy. It's what I say it's going to be, because that's what they need you to be, is like in charge, because they're following your cues. So if your energy, that's the reason you got to bring some of your own energy. And that's the way I picked it from a lot of black rooms. Is like I've seen. I would be like some kind of like low energy alternative comic by nature probably, had I not had that experience of seeing people perform
exactly.
And it's very similar to like I don't know if like Jeff Dunham Jeff Foxworthy, what are they called?
One of your favorites, yeah.
No, Jeff Dunham was when I was young. That was my favorite when I was a kid. Amazing Jonathan was my favorite. But I remember we used to love Jeff Dunham when I was like 12. And by the way, back then I think it was like his show was funnier than now. It's like a little more Vegas,
just a little. It's like stereotypes and.
I don't even have a problem with stereotypes if you do it funny. It's just like,
right.
It's not, whatever. It's not.
So you
nothing against Jeff Dunham. It's just like, I remember, when I was 12, I remember that jalapeno on a steak. Like, that was the funniest shit I ever, And I wasn't like a 12-year-old that loved Richard Pryor or loved whoever you're supposed to.
Magicians and puppets.
Yeah, the people that people tell you to love. Yeah, like I was a kid. So I still have that kind of feel. Like the people that are like the greats that you're supposed to, like I appreciate them from doing it. Now, like I've been on stage, so I'm like, Richard Pryor was a guy in movies when I was a kid, so I was never against Richard Pryor or something, but I wasn't ever like, oh my God, he's the greatest. Like, even now if I watch it, I'm not like, I'd rather watch like Dave Chappelle or Dave Attell than watch a Richard Pryor old one, but because I do it for a living, I can appreciate what the greatness is of what he did, and it's like wow, that's like a shoulders you stand on, you know what I mean? There's the shoulders of giants you stand on.
Now you are friends with the giants, though. It's incredible.
Yeah, then I like that about comedy. You get to meet people that are like you looked up to,
Yeah,
and I'm like, when I met like legendary Wid at the fucking Laugh House when he was the host, I was like, oh wow, because it was like all people I saw in like Evening at the Improv when I was a kid and thought about stand up.
Yeah,
that's when I discovered like kind of stand up comedy or whatever. I didn't think I was gonna do it, but I liked it a lot, and I liked. I was like an unhappy kid, so it was like I liked laughing. So,
but you started with Kevin Hart. You guys were like. You pretty much like started a week before him.
Yeah, it was Big J started 6 months before me at that club, and Kevin started 2 weeks before me.
Jeez.
And Kev was like the king of it for out of the gate, kind of,
Really?
Yeah, he was always Kev. Like he wasn't. It's not like he changed or something. He's always been the same exact dude, and like very like he just had like whatever it is. Like I met a couple people that like. Like I met Amy, like there's people I met, I'm like, oh, they have like it, like the thing where you're going to be famous and you're going to be like a movie star.
Is it just like an energy thing or like how they
it's
carry
charisma.
themselves?
It's not just that, but there's a certain kind of savvy, like a business savvy and fucking, I don't know. It's an impressive thing. Like I never gave a shit about any of that kind of shit. Like I really like stand up and I wanted to be like a really funny stand up. So like Attell was who I was always like obsessed with, like being like, or then Patrice, like that was my two fucking, who I was like stealing from, or well, influenced by, I guess, but not jokes, but I was like trying to ape what they did, and then hopefully you grow out of that. You know, everybody does that. You got somebody that you're trying to be like.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course.
And, my new faces that I did in Montreal years ago, I don't know if it's online or whatever, but if you see that, it's like, and I wasn't even aware of it, but my friend, Buddy Bolt, was like, man, you sound like Attell a lot in that. And I'm looking at him like, geez, but I didn't notice, because I'd been hanging out with him too, and it's like very hard not to talk like Attell if you hang out with Attell. It's like, in fact, like catching the Attells, I call it. Like it's so easy to slip into because it's such a fun like to do, you know, like it's so fun to do. And he's like so goddamn, that dude, like I've never seen anybody like that takes all their emotions and channels it into being funny. So if he's angry, like the angrier he is, the funnier he is. So it's just crazy. Like I've never seen anybody like if you watch Attell, like I've seen it, 'cause he's one of the few people I would like run to watch.
He's unstoppable. He's a force. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know like the high and low end of Attell on stage and when he's like doing great or whatever and when he's not. But the way to see him is like when he's a little bit pissed off. But like when somebody in the crowd pisses him off, man, that is like when you gotta not leave the room and make sure you watch because it's like the funniest shit you've ever heard. That energy drain thing I'm talking about, it for some reason that triggers something in him that it's like he just gets bigger and bigger. And it's like he also can't be. You know what's funny, man? Like if you're on stage with him. Attell's not like he's a really generous guy. I'm not talking about like something money or something, but he's not like a generous person to be with on stage, like, which sounds like negative, but it's not, like you'd never be as funny as him off the cuff. So it's just fun, even if he's not letting you like shine. It's still like a reward. People go on stage with him all the time, or like if he wants to have a banter with you, like I don't know. I never really saw anybody like him. Like you get like. It's a privilege to have him step on your shit. Yeah. It's going to be way better than anything you would have thought of. Yeah. And then you get to be entertained too. Whereas somebody else you're doing that with, you might be annoyed at or whatever. He's the exact opposite. You're like, oh, good. He's like stepping on because I feel like I was inadequate and like I'm much like the professionals here.
Privilege.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I got fired by Seinfeld on doing crowd warm up once. And that's like kind of like an honor, you know, like.
You got fired by Seinfeld?
Yeah.
What?
I'm a shitty crowd warm up, but, you know, it's like a thing. I can say that. Like,
yeah, that's a good credit. Yeah.
Yeah, like on the deal with like Seinfeld's mean. It's not like that. It's just like, oh, that's like that's still like cool to me that I could like know people or have a story like that.
Yeah, you've seriously worked side by side with like legitimately, like you said, the giants of the game. I mean, like Patrice O'Neal, Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., like Amy Schumer. What are some lessons you have learned from working with really the best to really ever do it?
It's all the same shit, kind of. It's
okay.
Lesson, and also, like, I don't know how do I put this. Well, one, you got no control over anything in this. It's just in general, you really don't have control over anything. But you have your set, you control. Like you control your jokes. That's the one. That's what's cool about this. Is like you have total control over that. So if you don't like anything, like they'll, you know, like they don't want white males thing you're talking about at the beginning. Like you can't control that. Like that's just how it's in vogue right now. And if you happen to be the one that some millennials think is like their punching bag, then that's how it is. But you control how funny you are. So like it's like Attell's like I just want to be as funny as I can be, right? That's how I feel. Like I want to be as funny as I could possibly be. Because I remember when I first saw like him or like other people that are fucking great. I remember from Philly, me and Jay were sitting in the crowd at the Cellar, and like, you know, it was like they didn't know who we were and shit. So it's like it was hard to just, oh, I'm a comic, can I sit down? You had to like know somebody to even just sit down because I didn't have any money to buy 2 drinks or whatever, you know. And he was doing crowd work, and it was so fucking fun. I mean, we were like in tears, man. Like we didn't know. It's like we didn't know you could be that funny. Like he was never my favorite from TV. I didn't think bad of him, but he wasn't like my favorite. You know, until I saw him live on stage, I was like, Jesus, like I don't know, it's just a thing I didn't know existed, like of doing it. And so that, I guess that's the main thing is like trying to be like as funny as I can be, and then that helps me a lot because it, you know, you like I said, if it's in vogue, you know, it'll be women aren't funny was in vogue for a while as the flavor, and now it's like only women are funny as the official line. But that's horseshit. Like. If you're funny, man, you're going to get something out of this, and you're going to be able to at least live doing this if you're truly funny at it. Now, you might not get cast in things, okay, or be in a movie or something. Like that's, I think people confuse stand-up with acting work a lot when they talk about not getting a break or you may never get that where the industry picks you. But, oh, it's your time to fucking have a deal and whatever. Like, so if you think that way, you're going to set yourself up for disappointment. But if you're just funny at what you fucking do, no one can fucking take that away from you. Even when they're fucking trying to, like, they want to ruin your life, or that media shit I had where you're like, somebody wants to like slander you or make you into something that you're not, and nobody bothers to talk to you about it. They could do it without you. You don't even have to be present for it.
You talking about the Amy
shit I went
Schumer
through,
thing?
Yeah, the shit. Well, another way, like the shit Amy said, I told her to say, but
it,
I told her it was. I didn't tell her to say. I told her it was okay because I didn't want her to be pulled into some bullshit.
Right.
But I remember that like Louis C.K. texted me. He's like, "Listen, man, don't sweat it. Like the media just made like $1 jillion off your name right now, but they don't get to say who you are and they don't get to define you and all that shit." Which was good that he said to me because it was really upsetting. But you still can't. Like, even like whatever the most bile of someone who doesn't know me that thinks whatever, like, you can't take away from me that I'm good at it. Like, you can't. And if you are, you're not being honest. So that's what you got. That's all you fucking got is that. And that's what I learned from working with those people that I looked up to is like that everything else walks. Like, that's the shit that talks. And you don't need the validation of like the industry or an agent. I always see people obsessed with like getting a manager or getting an agent or getting on Comedy Central. Or getting like a whatever, and like that shit is like we were talking about Norman, like, Norman fucking Comedy Central should have been dying to do his hour with all the good work he's done for them over the years. But you can never expect these people to appreciate you. People who appreciate you are people you made laugh. The industry doesn't know what's funny, and they're just looking at like what the young people are looking at. Like, okay, that's what's cool. They're like, except for there's very cool people, and here and there you're gonna find like very cool people in like the industry side of it that you could like depend on. But in general, it's fucking the dragon's mouth. It's not, you can't expect shit from it. It's the fucking like the only reason I got anywhere is because comics.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
That's literally the only reason. Like the industry was never into me, and then for a brief time they were, and then not, and like I know my career's been over and done like 7 times. And but what'll always pay off for you with that is like, if you're funny, like people that know funny will give it to you because they just can't. It's like it's dishonest for them not to.
Yeah.
So you don't have to fucking stress about horse shit like a festival or a contest or you just don't stress about that. Stress about your fucking jokes. I don't know why it's so hard to write a joke, but apparently it is. And when you're starting, it is. It's like, even if you're really funny when you start, it's like, I don't know. It's like if you had to think about walking, like one foot. Then it's like this weird thing having to quantify a thing that was just something you did, and it's difficult. It makes you like overthink reflexes.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you don't have it anymore because you're trying to figure out what the fuck. Like, how do I breathe? Like you're like it throws you off. But hopefully you get beyond that. It's just that's the thing, man. Just do your shit and make it really funny, and no one can fucking say you're not. Like, no one can. And ultimately, that'll save you from anything.
Was your first writing like doing the comics and things like that?
My first writing for what?
Like when you were like...
The first kind of thing is I would write jokes for comics here and there that were doing roasts, like locally in like New York. And then the first writing job that was like a kind of where I'm like, oh, I got a writing job was Mark Maron. Had a show called Nevermind the Buzzcocks on VH1 for like 2 minutes. Like when Zach Galifianakis had a talk show.
Oh, that late show?
Yeah, it was called The New Face of VH1. And Nevermind the Buzzcocks was a British show that I think is still on. And it was kind of like the sensibility I liked. It was kind of like a darker sensibility. And Maron, I would see him at the Boston here and there. And I happened to live near him in Astoria. So I'd like bump into him at the supermarket. I didn't know him super well, but he had seen me be funny at the Boston. So I was watching some show about Sid Caesar, like these guys, because a lot of like great fucking people wrote for that.
Yeah.
It's like I used to watch it or something. I just watched a documentary. It was interesting. It was about like, and it would work like 12-hour days to do live TV, which is very difficult. And I was like, well, I bet I could probably write for something if like they could do that. Like, I remember thinking after I saw him, like, I just happened to like call Mark and be like, hey man, I don't know if you got that show you need writers, but I want to like submit if I could. And I was like, oh, I was gonna see if you wanted to, which was like a just random thing because I watched this thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and I was like broke. It's always like the same story. I'm like a dead broke, and I gotta fucking like write my way out of it. So I just took the day and I just wrote lines with the kind of vague parameters of what the show was, and they called me the next day and like, hey, it's really funny, come in, and I got a job. And then it wasn't like It's like $750 a week or something. It wasn't shit, but it was like more than I was making, which was nothing, and it was better than a day job. And then I was like, cool, I'll always like have an income. And then I didn't have any money for like months.
Yeah.
It was like miserable. And then Neil Brennan, I would hang out with at the Boston. I would see him around. I was like, hey, can I submit for your thing? And then he was like, cool, yeah, send in. As again, I couldn't pay my rent, and I was like living with 4 dudes in Brooklyn. And I was like, we each paid our rent individually. This nice Jewish guy. It was funny, man, because like you had stereotype like Jewish landlords, but he was very fair with us. Like, and I was a deadbeat. I didn't even fucking Alan, his name was. And he'd be like coming in to see if I had my rent. Everybody had paid theirs.
Yeah.
He's like, is Kurt here? And I'm like just hiding in my room, like, and then fucking Neil called me on 3-way with Chappelle. Gosh. And then they fucking sent me. They wired me the money in advance because it was like $2,500 a sketch. So they wired me $5,000. I thought Chappelle did. I think it was Neil that it was out of Neil's pocket. He did it. Mm-hmm. And then later, I never even paid Neil the money back. Once I got paid, legit. I felt like terribly guilty about it for years. I mean, years I felt bad. And I was like, and I finally called him like, Neil, I feel so bad. And and it was for money. Neil's like, he couldn't believe I was like, he goes, Kurt, I made $50 million. Like, do you know how many people have not paid me back money that I lent them? Do you think I give a fuck about your $5,000?
Yeah.
You know, this is like, I think it's the main thing if you knew is like, having perspective is hard. Mm-hmm. And like, so I don't know. That's the thing to shoot for is just like having perspective because a lot of shit seems dire. That's not really dire. And trust me, much worse shit will happen to you.
Yeah.
Down the line. But,
and then you'll rise from the ashes like you have.
Yeah. Well, it's not, if you're funny, you're going to be funny. So you can't help it. So you just got to like, you know, at least now my fuck ups are like national news. So I got a better grade of fuck ups than I had when I started.
I would love to grill you about like all the amazing comics you've worked with, but I know we've got to land the plane here because we're about to do our final show here at the Laughing Skull. But me being a writer who first and foremost thinks writing is king and really respects the pen so much, and you being legitimately like, you've worked with some of the best writers, you yourself are one. Like what kind of advice can you give for like writers and things like
Nothing,
that?
man. I hate writing. I don't want to fucking do it. I like doing stand up. But
you write for yourself in stand up too?
Yeah, but even
right?
that's like a lot of shit I write on stage and then just do it again.
That's how you do it. You don't really write down.
Just when I'm talking to people and then something funny happens that I said, I remember to write down a note about it and then I try to explore it
on stage.
Right, and then if it's good, I do it again, and because I don't want to do work. So as much as I cannot, you know, it's more like leaving like crab traps out and seeing what crabs I have in the net the next day, as opposed to sitting down, because I don't have that kind of work ethic like that. I don't.
Okay.
It's just that I'm more idiot savant than I am.
I can totally see that.
Like, you know, like you could at the last minute call me for like, I need this, this, and this, and that's the only time I'm good, really. Like I'm not good with like preparation, or I'm good at down to the wire, banging it out.
I can tell by working with you this weekend. Yeah.
So it's like how I did homework when I was a kid or something, like at the last minute, whatever. But that's usually better than if I took my time and like was responsible. It wouldn't be as good. Mm-hmm. And people never like this shit. People like when I half-ass. The shit people like is the shit that I, with a lot of pressure on me because I fucked up, I'm under the gun, and then that's when the good shit comes out of me. It never does when I'm being responsible. So I have to treat writing like homework that I didn't do. I have to make it like the alternate, like, because I only come up with funny shit because I was supposed to be doing something else. So if it becomes my work, then I can't do it. So I have to get my mind in a way where it's the jerk off thing to do the job.
Oh, okay.
And not to be professional. That's like my process. It's not a good process and I won't recommend it, but it's just the only, my little survival way. So as far as getting into writing, I don't know, man. I was in stand up, so that's the way I went in. There's all kinds of like resources and like I don't know about any of them. Mm-hmm. I was just like on stage, I was funny, and then was in New York and I was around people that had shit going on, so they would let me submit. I've almost never been hired from a submission, except for that Marin thing. Okay. Well, Chappelle, but you know, the SNL packets are out, and you get your SNL, you write it out. Like I've almost never been hired from a thing like that.
It's just knowing people.
It's
like
but
just
you
being
still
respected
have to,
on stage.
Like yeah, but knowing them is just the foot in the door, and then Then they go, okay, submit, and then they give a shit about the submission. That's how it's been for me. I don't know how other people do.
Yeah.
But if you know any resource, take advantage of it. I don't know, man. I couldn't. I kind of fell into it. So if that's your goal to do it, I don't know what you should do. I would say move to New York or LA, and probably LA over New York, because there'll be more chances of getting something. But as long as you're in a scene of around comedy and there's production on stuff around and you're funny, you can get into it kind of easily, you know?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I was expecting, I guess, some sort of like, yeah, well, I do this technique and this technique when I write, but you're like, well, I just listen when I talk to people and then pay attention to what's funny about it.
Yeah, no, I don't have a thing I could ever import on somebody. It's like, I have like I don't know, man. I'm not afraid of failing a lot. Like, if people are afraid to bomb, are going to not make it. And, you know, you can't be afraid to suck. And, like, I went to art school, so that my good art teachers were like, the things that's interesting is your failures. Like, your successes aren't that interesting.
Ooh.
So.
That's gold, man.
Yeah, but that's like, it's true. Like, so, because it's like the unstructured shit before you know, even when I would, like, draw and sketch and shit, like, my roughs were what were more interesting than my finished work. Right? So, I'm not afraid of it being rough and not because I think that's what I'm more interested in looking at a lot of times. But then, you know, I also like when I worked on that show with Louis, like it was very interesting to see how because he's like, I mean, that guy's like, I mean, like even just like comedy, but he's like a genius in of like getting a thing done and conceiving a project and having a dedicated team around. And like when we made Horace and Pete, that was like, if you had like a friend making a YouTube thing that everybody just wants to be part of, so it's cool. Like it was like a thing like that, but it's like what, you know, fucking Jessica Lange and Alan Alda and Buscemi, and you know, it was crazy, man. They were all just like as excited to get to work on a thing. So everybody's focused on this guy's vision, and like that's a lot of pressure, I'm sure, to have on you. But he looked, you know, it's like Woody Allen. Grand plan kind of got like, well, I was very impressed by that, because that's like a kind of thing I never felt I had, was a kind of work ethic. Or after watching him do it, I felt like, oh, maybe that's something I could do, you know. Like it was very like cool to see somebody, things that you think are like so hard and beyond you, like you'd be like, maybe I could do that.
Yeah,
So
Mark said cool. In between takes he would sometimes come up and like draw dicks on his script.
Dude, he's so goddamn funny. Like you'll think it's important, he knows it. You're like, what's Louis about this? And he'll like, right. And then the thing, you're like, fuck you, faggot.
Just on your script.
Just on private, like just some high school immaturity. Like, it's just like the funniest shit. I can't remember what he wrote to me. It wasn't fuck you, faggot, but it's like something that juvenile.
Right. But builds it up like he's about to drop wisdom, and it's just.
Yeah, like, or it's just some important note for the scene, and it's just like a cock in your mouth. Like, that's just like so funny. But, you know, that's like impressive, man. Like somebody like, something that's intimidating you, and a guy's like that confident to like fuck around with you a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know, man. That's like cool. You just like most of the shit you learn by doing it. So if you want to be a writer, just start fucking writing, and then fucking. That's what I've done. Every time I didn't have something, I just started working on something I just made up that wasn't going to go anywhere. But the act of doing that, I don't know, triggered something that made other things happen. So. Do that maybe.
I'm so glad we can make this happen. I know so before we get out of here, is there anything else you want the world to know?
When my hour comes out, please buy it on Louis' website, and it's called You're Making It Worse, and I think we're shooting it in August or September.
Nice. And he's backing it. He's like putting it on his website and everything. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, literally no one else was interested in doing my hour with me. Not one place wanted to do it.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he wanted to do it like a while ago before any of that shit happened, but that's how they shit it, because besides being a white male, like I'm a rape apologist, that's
that whole
the stamp of like the little that, I don't know, whatever that scene is, man, I hope they fucking pull their heads out of their asses, or else I hope you like a nice long Trump administration, because that fucking rigid, almost religious liberalism, but without like the love of Jesus on every level, is not getting you nowhere. It's going to make things real bad. And since you're the liberals and you're smarter, it's on you to change, not the rubes.
The rubes. We're going to end on the word the rubes.
Yeah.
Kurt Metzger, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's finding time with you can be very difficult, so I appreciate you sitting down with me this little bit here, man.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. What? All right, later, buddy.
Thanks, man. Hot breath.